Keeping kids safe is the focus of National School Bus Safety Week. Here to share more about how motorists can help keep the kids and the community safe, we've got Dr. Ashley Stevens from Cabell County Schools. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I know this topic's been in the news a lot lately, but it's one of those I don't think we can talk enough about.
Absolutely. Any chance we can kind of pause and talk about how to keep kids safe, especially around school buses, I think is time well spent.
Yeah, these are great reminders. So what do we need to know when we see a school bus and we are driving near them?
Absolutely. So it's not like a stop sign. It's not like a traffic light. We have to completely stop in both directions.
Okay.
I think it's easy to realize you need to stop when you're behind a bus. It's stopped. You can't go anywhere. And certainly I hope we are not thinking about going around a bus. But if you are in the opposite lane and a bus is stopping over here and you feel like you should be able to go forward, it is super important for you to know that that stop sign is for you too.
Okay.
That is unusual. And so I think sometimes drivers maybe don't think like, oh, that's mine. But what happens is students exit out the side of the bus, and oftentimes, depending on where they live or where they're going, they will cross in front of the bus and in front of that lane of traffic. That's why there's the stop sign there. That's why there's the stop arm. And so regardless of if you're behind or in front of a bus, when it's yellow, you slow down so that when it's red, you stop. Always, no matter what, on both sides of the road.
Yeah. So it sounds like if ever in doubt, just stop.
Yes.
Is this an issue in our area?
Yes, it is. And it's easy to think, these are things that happen, or, it's National School Bus Safety.
Somewhere else.
Yes. But you guys were able to pick up on a situation in kind of the county end of our district not too long ago. And we are really grateful for the coverage on that because we were able to see some stopping of that behavior, some adjustment of the behavior. I think some tickets were issued and there were some consequences for that and some awareness. And the same day that we talked about that, I was driving in the city part of our district behind a bus, by a school, as I often am, and the person in front of me went right through it. And I'm not sure it would have been top of mind, but we had just had that conversation. And I was so sure that around here, that would never happen. But it certainly is, no matter where you are, something that we need to pause and we need to remember, we need to make sure that we're abiding by. If you have young drivers, maybe they've not had exposure to this, so have those conversations with your kids if they are kind of entering the driving. And anybody who is driving, just pause, always stop.
Right. Take your time. Slow down. Okay, so beyond stopping, when you see the bus is stopped and that stop arm is out, what do you think is the most important tip for drivers?
So for drivers, it's to understand, they call it the danger zone.
Okay.
And that's, 10 feet in front of the bus.
Okay.
10 feet to the side where kids would exit. Okay. 10 feet behind the bus, and then that oncoming traffic if you're on a two-lane, for instance. Those are places where it's tough to see kids because the bus is so big.
Right.
And so knowing that anytime you're nearby, there could all of a sudden be a student that you couldn't see coming because of the size and because of kind of the structure. I think that is really important, knowing you're not just stopping for the arm, but you're being very aware because a kid could come, typically in front, but they could come out of a place that you couldn't see them coming before.
Yeah, and it can happen so fast. So you've been giving us a lot of reminders and tips for drivers in these situations. What about the kids? What should we be helping the students do and remember during these boarding and coming off and on the school bus?
Absolutely. Riding the school bus is super safe.
Yeah.
We're stopping to have these conversations to make sure that the getting on and off is just as safe. So making sure that they're aware of that danger zone and that they need to be looking for cars too, especially as your students get older. Like, they need to be a contributing factor, making sure that they're paying attention and understanding that people can't always see you when you think that they can. Also remind them, you can see in this image that the driver is kind of waving them on. They have a great vantage point because they're sitting up tall. So if they're stopped waiting to cross, make sure that they wait until the driver gives them an indication that it's safe. They may be able to identify dangers that the kids can't see. And my dad always told me when I was learning to drive, he said, don't look at the signs, look at the cars. Signs don't hurt people, cars do. And so as I was learning to merge, and I'm like, nah, Dad, there's a yield, they're gonna stop. Well, they might, but that yield sign is not going to keep me safe. And so having your kids be aware that they need to wait and look for cars. And if a car is moving, even if they shouldn't be, you stay still.
That is a great tip, because we all know people easily get distracted.
Sure.
And that's when accidents happen. And so this is a great time to remind everybody, whether you're a driver or a parent or a grandparent of a child who will be riding the bus this year.
Absolutely. And for our kids.
Any final thoughts, any final reminders?
Absolutely. I just want kids to know that the school bus is safe. We are so grateful for, the year after year safety ratings. If we can get our kids on a school bus, it is the best way to get them to school, because you avoid all of the pedestrian concerns and drop-offs and all those types of things. So just helping them know that this is something we need to be aware of when we're using this type of transportation, and letting them know that they're off to a great day at school.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Dr. Stevens, thanks so much for stopping by and reminding us of all these safety tips around the school bus.
Thank you for having me.